Alright everyone, back again with another S4 deck profile. This one's a little bit updated. Not a whole lot has changed. The main core of the deck is still the same. I have been testing a lot more online with using Fancy Ball and Dark Magical Curtain, and it just makes the deck even more insane. Fortunately, still gotta wait for that stuff to come out, so for right now this is the post-Chaos Origins list. Again, part 2, I guess, if you want to call it that, or more of a version 2. After talking it over with some people in the S-Force Discord, there were definitely some things that needed to be cut. First thing you'll notice is Edge Razor is no longer in the list. It was never used in combination. It was always more of an extension, or if I just needed something random to send to the graveyard for world sorting. It was never really... The purpose was for it to, be able to, like, you normal summon it, it gets hit with a hand trap, you have retro in hand already, but it never came up. And anytime I had it in my hand, it always just made my hand worse. So that was cut to add in more inconsistency. I cut the Fiendsmith package down. The problem with this deck is the extra deck space is so very tight. And having full Fiendsmith being able to get into things like Lacrima or doing the Aerial Eater line to get into your S4 stuff, like, it just takes up so much extra deck space. And so I decided to cut some of that stuff, cut down the Fiendsmith engine a bit. So the first thing that I'll point out is cut tracked, or not tracked, Sanct. Sanct was great during, like, against Droll and stuff, but I went back to now only using one Engraver and one Lacrima, and I'll get more onto that later. But yeah, so those are some notable changes. I did also add in, I'm testing Fallen and Virtuous. I don't have Black Dragon, so I just have the Fusion Albions, but I'll get into that when we get there. But yeah, so we'll get started. I changed where my webcam, actually I changed webcams and I changed where my stuff was located so I could get you guys a little bit better quality, get a better angle, more lighting and stuff. So hopefully this looks a lot better. So to start off with the monsters, 3 Signify, well, it's not really the monsters, but really just the S-Force cards. 3 Signify, 3 Bridgehead, and then that's also going to be with 1 Rhoda and 1 Terraforming. Signify is always going to be at 3. It's the Stratos for the deck. You normal it, you add an S-Force monster from your deck to your hand. It's a 1-card combo, and any card that gets you to this card is also a combo in itself. Now, the only problem is with Ryan Yu using Droll. Now, there's a lot of people that are playing Droll and, in their decks again to try to combat Striker and KT and other things else like that. So it does hurt a little bit if you don't already hard open the Signify. Most of the time, I will usually try to make my first search be retro if I don't already have it in hand and have whatever monster I can on field. Because the moment you get to Night Chaser and then you can get to Origin and stuff, then you're fine. But if the only card I have in my hand to get me to Signify is, Rhoda or Bridgehead, and I use that and then I get hit by Droll, turn's kind of done there, depending on what else I've got in my hand. But yeah, this is never going to change. So the only way this is going to change is if any of these cards get hit or are no longer hit on the ban list. And then obviously the main guy again, retroactive. This card's just, it's insane. It throws so many people off where, you have a monster on field and you say, okay, well, I'm going to link summon. And they're like, okay. And then you send this from your hand. And then they're like, oh, okay, so what can I do to stop that? And it's like, well, you really can't do anything. Like, it's not an activated effect. The only activated effect it has is its effect when it's on field to bounce itself back to hand to special an S-Force from hand. Other than that, it going to the graveyard for a link summon of an S-Force monster, not an activated effect. It banishing itself instead of you banishing an S-Force card from your hand, such as with Night Slayer. I'm sorry, Night Catcher. I keep calling it Slayer because that's the OCG name and it just sounded a lot better. If you were to banish for that, you can banish it, and then this is, as well. It's not an activated effect. It also, then in those instances, also gets around Witch of the Black Forest. Because you summon Witch, you make Artemis, you then get this to your hand. It doesn't activate, like I said, in those instances. This card went from initially being a 2 of in the original S-Force deck down to a 1 of, down to it was just cut. Because the only S-Force extra deck monsters we had were Justify, which you would already need 2 other monsters plus this on field, and Night Chaser, but you can't use this by itself to make a Night Chaser, unfortunately. Even if you could do that, I really don't think that would really be beneficial. I mean, maybe, but I'm not going to test something in a world of a hypothetical like that. The remaining S-Force monsters, Gravitino, Platina, and Lapswell. Gravitino is always going to be here. Um, the column effect of him is just way too good. A lot of people commit a lot of resources to the field, and those resources being gone. Now, you don't do the full zone lock, or not zone lock, but the full column stuff like you would in a regular S-Force deck. This deck definitely does very much live off of the Fiendsmith engine it branches into and the Dark Magician of Destruction engine it branches into, which is where these two come in. But that being said, there's really no reason not to run those because you have in combo a way to get to a Light Fiend. You have in combo a way to get to a Dark Spellcaster that's level 6 or higher. So there's no reason for this to not be used in the deck. And the amount of synergy that it has, so for example, in one of the Origin combos, you'll banish Lapswell, you'll send Platina to the graveyard, and now, you'll use Origin, bring something back, you'll then use the Origin to banish the stuff, and then you'll link into Night Chaser, and then use Night Chaser, return itself, Lapswell will come back, this special summon something from Grave, this will special summon something from Banished, which usually you'll have a Night Catcher, and so just being able to, like, this deck can easily get 5 S-Force monsters onto the field, no problem. It just doesn't have a whole lot to do after that. Because the majority of things that would restrict it would be like Edge Razor, you can't make League 3 or highers. But that's about it. But I mean, even just this right here, it's basically I can banish an S-Force, destroy all monsters in the same column as my S-Force monsters. So basically, if I have them here, anything that's sent from these 3 columns, as far as monsters, is banished. All 3 zones here of monsters lose 600 attack, and at any point I can banish an S-Force card from hand, or with the help of the traps, send one from deck to graveyard, and then destroy all of them. So it would destroy all of them, then Gravitino would banish them. I'm trying to go a little more in depth on the S-Force cards because that's what I really want to build this channel, and what these things are about is with the S-Force stuff. I know it does devolve into, Fiendmith DMOD slop, and unfortunately, but fortunately, and that's why I really love the deck is, there's so many things and it's coming at you from so many different directions, and it's just so much fun. Another change is up to 3 Origin. They're 2 or 3. I'm going back and forth on it. It's one of those cards that, if you already have it in your hand, then it just makes extending through interruptions easier. And then once I cut the Fiendsmith engine down, it got to the point where I was at 39 cards, and somebody in the Discord said that they ran 3 Origins. I figured just try 3 Origin, and it's been working pretty well. And then last but not least, World Sorting. This card is absolutely insane for the deck. So if an S-Force monster you control banishes a card from your hand to activate its effects, you can send one S-Force card from your deck to your graveyard instead. Now, it's not S-Force monster, it's S-Force card. So that means any of these. So if you need a piece in the graveyard, you're going to get it. If you're worried, oh, I really don't want to draw, another retro, so I'm going to pitch a retro. Or I really don't want to draw, I don't know why you wouldn't want to draw another Bridgehead, but you can do that. And if another card is banished, except during the damage step, you can target one card on your opponent's field or graveyard and banish it. Then you can move one S-Force monster. That part doesn't really matter that much. It's meant to just use move Mystify and other things. But if another card is banished except during the damage step, if another card or cards. So it's not just when you banish off of Origin, it's just whenever a card is banished. You can only use each effect once per turn. So anytime a card is banished, you can banish something from the field or grave. And on the opponent's field or grave. And to me, that's just, Branded does remove some cards from play. There's other decks that remove some cards from play, and it plays right into this. Because it doesn't have a condition for it. It's just as long as a card is banned, as long as it's not during the damage step. So this has a whole lot of potential. This would be a lot better if it was a continuous spell, but it makes sense it being a trap. I owe an apology because I initially thought this card was absolutely awful. I didn't run it. I hated it. I didn't think it was a good card. I saw other people that did combos with it and setting it. And I was like, you know what? Let me try it out. And then once I discovered the actual power that this card has, it's It's absolutely insane. I search it in every combo that I do now. So that's all of the S-Force cards. So now moving into the Fiendsmith stuff. One Engraver, one Lacrima. My Yu-Gi-Oh coach, Paulo Goncalves, there was a 60 card list that he played. I believe it was Snake Eyes. And he just had one Engraver, one Lacrima. And the reason for this being is I only want these in combo pieces. Um, Again, because of Droll coming back, I really wanted to stop playing Sanct because if I had to go second, it just ruined the fact that I couldn't kill them in that turn. So this engraver is meant to purposely just be sent off of Lacrima, and then this also allowed me to free up some extra deck spaces. I am testing this. I may go back to having, either tracked or sanked in or upgrading, adding some more stuff to this. Because it is good at getting hand traps out of the way, but at the same point, the deck is very resilient as is. I played against a Angelecki, Mitsurugi, um, DMOD deck earlier today, and I wasn't able to win, but in just my normal S4 stuff, I was able to play through all of his interactions. He didn't have any left. I just didn't have enough power at the end of it to be able to really take advantage and win the game. And then he got me on the crackback on that. So there wasn't really much I could do there for that. For the Dark Magician of Destruction stuff, still on the 3 Witch, 1 Timaeus. Like I said, once Dark Magical Curtain comes out, this will go down to 1, and then we will have 3 Curtain, and that will be this 5 cards. There's absolutely no reason to not run Curtain in this deck, which is just way too insane to not really use. And it's also very funny that in the year of 2026, playing a match against somebody, going to a locals or something, being like, all right, we can, all right, I go first, normal summon Witch of the Black Forest, and they're like, this isn't a goat tournament, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know. And then I'm going to link this into Artemis, and I'm going to go full combo, and they're like, I can't believe all that happened from one Witch. And then the 3 Fallen of Virtuous. Like I said, I don't have the Synchro Dragon. I don't really know if I'm going to keep this or not. This is really just a place filter or a placeholder. I don't really know if I'm going to keep this or not. Being able to interrupt things going first or going second is fine, but like I said, the extra deck is really tight. And there's just some things that, like, a lot of the stuff is mandatory to have, but unfortunately, there's not always a lot of space for it. And then the other thing I did was add to my hand traps. So the previous lineup was just the 3 Fua and 3 Ash, 3 Spark, and I don't know if I had the Drolls in the last deck profile or not. I wasn't really... My list online varied, and I didn't really change my in-person list too much. And I just recently changed it to match it. And then adding in Ghost Ogre as well. Like I said, we can play through a lot of interactions, we can play through a lot of negates, we can play through a lot of things, so it's just a matter of, can we stop our opponent from establishing too much? We can already play through a decent amount of interactions, we can already play through a decent amount of negates, we can already play through a decent amount of pops or bounces or things. It's just a matter of if your opponent's got too much on the field to answer, it's just way too difficult to be able to bust the raw, that the deck does not have, the branded resilience or, the infinite grind of Sky Striker. Like, it's kind of in between the two. And so having Ghost Ogre to be able to answer so many different cards in the meta, it's worked wonders in just the one day that I've been testing it. But yeah, I'm fairly happy with this lineup on hand traps. Spark has just been insane. I didn't think this card was going to be that good, and I hated the price tag for it, but it was in everybody's S-Force list. And much like with World Sorting, I've come to love this card. Um, it's just being able to just get rid of things that are on the field and just being able to say, you know what, that card's a problem, it's gone now. Being able to use it, and especially being able to use it against Ritual Light and Darkness. So if you can bait out their bouncing and then be able to Spark banish it, or even Spark banish the Mind Shuffle, because Spark doesn't just banish. Oh no, it does only banish the monster. I was thinking of another card. My apologies. But yeah, being, if you bait out the bounces and then you can banish that, and then now you don't have to worry about that monster coming back. I mean, maybe they have a way to get it back. I don't know. I haven't really seen it. A lot of my matchups have been against trying to grind against Cool Tune, and that deck, that deck needs to go. Rotary needs to go, but the story for another time. But I do like this lineup of hand traps. I don't really know if I want to add any more into it. I kind of want to add more breakers back in. I was playing Droplet for a while, and that did help answer a lot of things. But then the problem became I played more against Ritual of Light and Darkness, Rolad, and I needed more things to stop it. They search a whole bunch of cards. They leave spells and traps on the field and then activate them. So just trying to minimize that so much. If your deck has the ability to keep regenerating the same resources over and over and over again, while I can play through them turn after turn after turn, I'm not going to be able to punch through before you get me on the crackback, unfortunately. And now for the extra deck. So to get the initial out of the way, the 3 Albion. I know some people do 2 Albion and one other thing because you can't set another card because you only have the 3 Fallen. I just threw this in here. Like I said, I don't really know if I'm keeping Fallen and Virtuous in it. For the S-Force monsters, Night Chaser, Night Catcher, Mystify, same thing. No Justify. I would play Justify if I had the space. I just don't have the space. And it's not really that good in comparison to these ones. So pretty much everything here besides the Albion is used in some combo or another. So for the Fiendmith stuff, Requiem, Sequence, Lacrima, and Caesar. Cut Desiree, cut Agnum Day. That combo line to start with a Fiendsmith card and then make your way into Aerial Eater, send Lapswell, make Ognum Day bring Lapswell back, Lapswell go into Night Chaser, and being able to do stuff from there, that's fine and all, but you really need to open heavy on the Fiendsmith side of that, and because I cut the Fiendsmith stuff in my deck, I just wanted the bare minimum of what's there. So whether I use Requiem to get Lacrima onto the field, or I normal Lacrima or whatever, I can always get to what I need to get to here. It does run into a little bit of problem if I don't have access to Lapswell, because then I can't make the Caesar, but 9 times out of 10 I always have the access to that anyway. And then IP, because we don't have WP, which leads into Quartet. Artemis for the Witch of the Black Forest. And then lastly, the Dark Magician of Destruction and the Dragoon. I will be doing a basic combo guide, so hope you guys stay tuned for that.